Hi guys, I think I'm live now. There might be a slight delay, so sorry if I respond maybe like 10 to 15 seconds too late. But it's, oh shoot, I am echoing too. Sorry about that. Okay, let me mute my computer so that you guys don't hear me infinitely repeating myself. But yeah, welcome to the live stream. For those of you who are here for the first time, basically it's going to be an hour with me in my studio. It's going to be pretty casual. You know, I'm going to be working on a painting and chatting with you guys via the chat box. So if you guys have any questions for me or just want to say something, anything, yeah, feel free to use the chat box and I'll be glancing at it like every few minutes. So I'm still trying to perfect the art of multitasking. So I'm going to be trying to work on my painting, look at the chat box, answer your questions, remember what I'm trying to say, and also probably filming the painting that I'm working on today. So if I seem a little scatterbrained, please bear with me. Please bear with me. But yeah, overall, I like to start these things off just waiting for a few minutes just for everyone to trickle in. I know not everyone can make it right on 2 p.m. on the dot. I myself have been late many times. So yeah, I am going to go to the chat box now and say hi to some of you. I love saying hi to you guys personally. So if I mispronounce your name, please forgive me. So first thing, Sonia says, I remember when you had less than 50,000 subscribers. You have come a long way. Well, thank you, Sonia. You have been with me for quite a long time. It's so nice to see like kind of people who have followed my journey since the beginning or since the early stages. I appreciate your loyalty. Saruta says, hi, Happy. Just wanted to let you know that you really inspire me with your art. I want to be a professional artist because of you. Well, thank you, Saruta. And yeah, I'm really glad I could inspire and hopefully help some of you guys start your art careers. And, you know, I always think the world could use more artists. So there's nothing but joy when I hear about people saying that they want to be a professional artist because of me. I feel like I'm doing some good in the world when I hear news like that. Let's see. May T says, Happy. Hi. Hi, May. Janny is here as well. Hi, Janny. And Luna Stone. Hello. I'm so glad I could make this one. Hi, Luna. Mandy Crossbow says, I'm so excited that I finally made it to stay awake for the live stream. Oh, Mandy, what time is it where you are? And I'm so honored you stayed up for me. Gina Paola says, I'm so happy I woke up on time. Thank you so much for waking up early. Those of you who are not in American time zones, I know that this might be a very awkward time. I really appreciate those of you staying up late or waking up early to make it. I can't believe you guys would do that for me, so thank you so much. And let's see, we have June Love. Hello, June. Nice to see you again. Chameleon Soul says, much love from Holland. Chameleon Soul, do you have, oh, I see your avatar is Lana Del Rey. I'm a huge Lana Del Rey fan as well. So I recognize your name from her video for, I think it's Ride, for that music video where she talks about how her mom says she's a chameleon soul. So yeah, I love that phrase. And oh, Mandy, you're in Germany, 11 p.m. Wow. And Saruta's from Utah. Wow, awesome. So many people all around the world. That's so cool. It's so surreal to like think about how we're all kind of hanging out at the same time, but we're all so far away from each other, yet we're able to kind of participate in the same interaction almost in real time. Yeah, it's crazy how far technology has brought us. So yeah. Oh, Johanna, welcome, Johanna Dunn. And Casey Martin says, love your work, excited to get my print next month. Well, thank you. I'm so excited for you to receive it as well. And Haley says, hi from England. Hi from California. You know, fun fact, England is the only European country that I've been to. I went there years ago. I think I was still like a teenager with my mom. She was having a conference there, and I tagged along, and we actually stayed at the University of Cambridge in their dormitories. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with like American university dormitories versus other places, but this was my first time seeing another country's college dorms, and it was so incredibly beautiful. So not to downplay my university, I absolutely love dorming because it was such a great social venue for you to just meet other freshmen and things like that. But freshman year, I dormed, and our dorm rooms were like jail cells. Like, we had these white brick walls, and they crammed 3 of us into a double room. So I'm pretty sure that was like illegal. Like, it truly felt like a jail cell. Like, there were 3 girls crammed into a room smaller than this room. And it was 3 people's worth of like 3 beds, obviously 3 desks, and 3 girls worth of clothes. So it was just so crowded. At one point, all 3 of us had boyfriends. So there were up to 6 people hanging out in our room at any given moment. And it was just completely claustrophobic. And I went to Cambridge with my mom. We stayed there when she had a conference at University of Cambridge. And the dorms there are so beautiful. It was like from Harry Potter or something. Like, each suite had their own bathroom inside of the room. And actually, I don't know if they had a toilet, but it definitely had like a sink, and everything was decorated like so, I don't know if medieval is the right word, but it was definitely very like European, very luxurious. The beds were so comfortable. The rooms were very spacious. It just looked like out of almost like a home magazine. Like, everything, the style, the decor was just like so beautiful. I'm like running out of words to describe it, but it was just such a stark contrast from my American dorms. And I was just like, damn, England seems really nice. And we also visited London for a few days as well. But yeah, I haven't been to any other European country. So for those of you living in Europe, I would love to hear about what that's like. I've always been curious. Most of my traveling I do in Asia because it's where my family lives. I've never been to Europe or South America, and that's like one thing I really regret from my college years, was not doing study abroad or seeing more of the world. And yeah, I definitely want to like knock a few items off my travel bucket list. So, oh, whoa, look, we have some people from Russia and Finland. Whoa, that's awesome. I really want to visit Russia as well. It's like China's northern neighbor. You know what's really funny? For some reason, I don't know if it's because we're all immigrants, but a lot of my closest friends in life, like my best friend from high school is Russian. And I just have a lot of Russian friends. It's like, not saying that I get along with them just because they're Russian, or that I don't get along with people from other countries, but for some reason there's just a lot of Russians in my life, and I think it's just like a nice coincidence. And I always chalk it up to the fact that China and Russia are right next to each other. But maybe that's a stupid explanation. But yeah, I love people from all over the world though. Okay, so let's see. So we have 17 people watching now, and I think that's enough kind of a cushion. I'm gonna start working on the painting now. I'm gonna just move the camera over so you guys can see it better. Please bear with me while I awkwardly grab the camera. But yeah, as I'm moving the camera, I will make sure to continue chatting so you guys aren't completely bored by this black screen. Let's see. So for those of you who don't know, I recently came back from a trip to China. I think I mentioned this a billion times, so I'm really sorry if I'm sounding like a broken record, but I am still slowly getting over jet lag, and it's so annoying. So does anyone have any tips for getting over jet lag? It's been a week, and I feel like I haven't made any progress at all. But yeah, for some reason, my body just wakes me up every day at like 3 a.m. and I can't fall back asleep. Even if I go to bed early and like force myself to not have any distractions, I just end up just waking up without any way to control myself. Okay, woo! Yay! I think this is good. Let me move. Okay, I don't feel like this is close enough though. So let me see if I can move this closer, you guys. I really want you guys to get a good view. So I'm just gonna put my tripod up here. Oh, this is a Gorilla tripod if you guys are curious. But it's great because these legs kind of bend and you can wrap them around things. So I'm gonna try to wrap this around a source that's closer to the canvas. Go, shine some light on it. But yeah, let me just move everything closer. Sorry guys, this part is always awkward, and I wish I had like better technology so I could just point or use two cameras and just flip between them. I know that's possible, but I just don't know how to do it yet, and I feel like I just stink at this. Okay. I feel like this is way better. This is definitely closer. Oh yeah, sorry, I'm like pointing. There we go. I'm really sorry, guys. Oh. Okay. If you hear me struggling, it's because I'm wrapping the legs of my tripod around my DSLR because I'm actually recording a time lapse for this piece as well, and I want to make sure I don't miss footage. So good job, Happy, for planning everything. Okay. So yes, we are closer now. Yay. Okay. This is way better, right, guys? This view hopefully this view was worth my awkward rearranging session. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Please, tripod, do not let me down today. Do not fall. That would be much appreciated. Thank you. And for safety's sake, I'm going to sit on this tiny little stool. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's like a tiny little stool. Okay. Let me also move my phone over so I can read your questions as I see. I have my phone up right here, and I can read your comments. And we can get started! Yay! For those of you watching for the first time, you're probably just like, why does it take so long for her to just freaking change her her camera angle? Well, it takes so long because I fail at life. Okay. All right, guys. I'm back. Here's my hand. Hello, hello. Let me talk about this piece a little bit. I actually did the first layer yesterday, and it's already dry, which is crazy. I didn't use any mediums at all. I just used paint thinner, which is Gamsol, and black paint. And the black paint I used was, let's see, Mars Black from Gamblin, Mars Black. And yeah, I am very, very pleased with how fast it has dried. So now I get to actually work on the second layer only 24 hours later. So yeah, I feel like a lot of people have this misconception that oil painting takes so long to dry, and that's why it's so hard to use. But my experience with oils, like, it doesn't take that long to dry, at most a few days. I think a lot of times people might be using slow drying mediums, and that's obviously going to make it dry slower, hence the name. But if you don't use any mediums or use fast drying mediums, I think Gamsol itself is very fast drying, or any sort of paint thinner is fast drying. It actually isn't too bad. So that's one popular myth I'd like to debunk. Whoa, there's my huge head. This angle makes my face look so funny. Oh. Okay. Oh my gosh, sorry. I'm always freaked out by how large my forehead looks. Okay, I'm gonna just talk about the piece as I work on it. Ooh, sorry, moving my microphone over. Okay. So you guys might recognize this one. I did it as a drawing first. It was one of my Patreon reward drawings. It went to one of my awesome patrons, so I'm really glad it's in the home of someone in my Patreon family. It always kind of warms my heart to know that I think of my art as children sometimes, so I always want them to get like adopted by a really good family. And so yeah, it really, really warms my heart to hear that my patrons have my works. But yeah, so I'm making a painted version of it, and she's going to go to the same home as the drawings owner, which I think would be really cute. It's almost like two sisters. So yeah, this piece, the concept I came up with because I have a gray cat, as a lot of you guys know. His name's Huan Huan. He's chubby and cute and lazy, and I love him to pieces. And this isn't really supposed to be me, but I often joke about how like I would love it if my cat was really big, like the size of a tiger, because he's so friendly and gentle, and I'm like, it would just be so fun to cuddle with this giant fluffy cloud. And one day I was like, you know what, I should just paint it and see what it looks like, or draw it out and see what it looks like. And so the girl has these two ribbons on her hair, and she's also, sorry, not two ribbons, one white ribbon on her hair, and she's also tying a white ribbon on the cat's tail as the cat is sleeping. And it's a very common thing with my cat. Like, my cat is very good at being very tolerant of me when I want to poke him or pet him. Like, he's very, very chill, and he never hisses at me or scratches me, even if I'm like, you know, teasing him or, you know, annoying him. So I just thought it was a perfect personification of my cat's personality, because he's just napping and sleeping, and he doesn't give a crap that this girl is like playing with his tail. So yeah, I almost wanted to do this to like honor my cat. So yeah, that's kind of the general gist of how I came up with the design, or the concept for this piece. And I will take a quick moment to look through some of your questions now, so that you know, I'm not just spending the whole time blabbering to myself. I know you guys might have some interesting and useful questions for me to answer. So just please bear with me as I look through them. Oops. Oh my gosh. Sorry. I gotta make sure that this is sturdy. Okay. Please, please, please don't fall. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I noticed my webcam was wobbling, and I had a moment of panic, but I'm good now. Okay. So, I missed a lot. Sorry, guys. Hey, it's Crystal Art. Hi, Crystal. Welcome. She recommends drinking peppermint tea for jet lag. That's a really good suggestion. Never heard of that before. I've never actually tried peppermint tea. I heard it tastes really good. And let's see, melatonin 30 minutes before I go to bed. Great tip from Stephanie Urso. And Michelle asks, I'm loving this painting. How did you paint the background? Okay, I will explain that as I work on the second layer for this cat. But yeah, the background was basically a lot of blacks, grays, and a tiny bit of color. I like to keep it kind of muted. And Luna says, do you think one day you can do a video on your camera setup? Yes, I could, except I feel like my camera setup is not the best one. But if you guys really want to see it, I could show you. It's just, I feel like I need to improve my own camera setup at this stage. Mandy Crossbow says, I kind of have a problem with my painted wood panels that I cut and gesso myself. I didn't pay attention of measurements for frames. Now they don't really fit in standard frames, LOL. Okay, I'm gonna start painting now and answer the few questions you guys asked me. So the question about wood panels, I definitely know what you mean, because when you ask like Home Depot or whoever to cut panels for you, sometimes or oftentimes they don't actually cut it perfectly, if that makes sense. Like they just do it roughly, and they don't really care about measuring things exactly. So you will, if you're unlucky, end up with panels that don't fit the standard frame. So if you ask them to cut, let's say 16 by 20, sometimes you will get them cutting, you know, like 15 by 21 or something. Usually it's not off by that much. Like, it shouldn't be off by, you know, a whole inch. But sometimes I do have trouble with fitting the paintings into frames later. So that's a huge reason why I kind of started using pre-cut panels, but I know they're more expensive. So a good workaround for that is for you to bring your own tape measurer. And when you go to the store, bring a tape measure and like a marker or something and measure the exact measurements yourself on the wood panel. And then when you ask the representative to cut it for you, instead of having them measure it like briefly or eyeballing it, you can just say, hey, do you mind just cutting on this line? I've already drawn it for you. I found that in my experience, they really appreciate like me taking the measuring work out of their hands. So, you know, if they just have to aim at a line and cut it, it's usually fine. And you're better erring on the side of them cutting it slightly smaller than too big, because most frames, like 16 by 20, for example, the opening isn't exactly 16 by 20. It's usually like 15 and a half by 19 and a half. So they do account for you, or they do intend to cover up some of the painting, so not the entire 16 by 20 will be exposed in the opening, obviously, because, you know, the opening needs to be smaller in order for the painting to rest on it comfortably. So if they cut it a little bit smaller, like 15 and 3/4 by 19 and 3/4, it's usually not too bad, because the frame is already smaller, if that makes sense. But if they cut it too big, I've had that happen to me too. I just used really coarse sandpaper, and this, just a warning, takes a lot of elbow grease and a lot of strength, and you might be frustrated like I did. I think I might have even cried because I was so frustrated, but I just needed to sand off like I don't know, 0.01 inch. Like, it was just such a small, yeah, it wasn't even like a 1/4 inch. It was like 1/8 of an inch or less, 1/16 of an inch. And it took me so long. It took me like over an hour, but I managed to do it. I sanded off like, you know, 1/16 of an inch of a wood panel using very coarse sandpaper, but it does take a while. But hey, I got it to fit into my frame, which was, you know, the ultimate goal. But yeah, the next question I was going to answer was about how to paint background. So for the background, I use a very big brush. I think I'll show you guys. I use this one. I don't know if you can see how big it is, but it's like approximately the width of my finger, and it's a filbert brush. And for clouds and kind of just the first layer of backgrounds in general, I think it's okay to use an older brush. So I don't throw away my brushes if the hairs get too frayed, or, you know, if the hairs are not soft anymore and they're just kind of coarse. I actually use them for backgrounds, especially the first layer when I'm just trying to color block and fill up the entire painting surface. You know, it doesn't matter if things look perfect, or sometimes in like clouds and foliage and bushes, it's actually really nice to have kind of a random rough texture. It gives, yeah, like a nice surface texture to your piece in general. And even when you layer over it, if you have a little bit of texture underneath from your previous like first layer, it actually, yeah, like it makes your final piece feel very painterly and fun. And I know that's not really for everyone. Some people really like a very clean, smooth, perfectly smooth surface. I myself love being able to see brush strokes and the three-dimensionality of oil paintings. For me, like oil paintings, I mean, they're not obviously not full sculptures, but they are closer to sculpture than like drawings, because they do have a three-dimensional aspect to them. You can see the brushes, you can see the different layers. Yeah, so that is what I use to do color block. It's kind of an old frayed brush. And then with backgrounds, I usually don't paint the background first, but for this piece, because the background takes up most of the surface area of the piece, I was okay painting it first. I tend to basically start with whatever aspect of the painting that is the most important, I guess, in a way. So if it's mainly a portrait, I'll do obviously the face and the eyes first. But in this case, I did the background because this was actually kind of a different experiment for me. Most of my pieces don't feature a full body. They're very much mostly just kind of close-up beauty portraits. And then also they don't really show too much background. Like the background takes up very little surface real estate. But this one, I really wanted to do something different. And since Halloween is coming up, I would really want to do like a dark evening type of painting. This one will not be too Halloween, like it won't be scary. But I did want to have it set at night. So almost like a beautiful, magical evening scape. And yeah, it's kind of, I think it might be my first, at least in the recent past couple of years, my first piece that's featured this much background. So that's why I started with the background. But my method of painting is not very structured, and it's not something that I feel like people or even myself have to follow to a T. I kind of just paint what feels right, and I think with you guys, as you practice more over time, you'll feel that way too. Like you'll develop your own personal habits that work for you. They might not work for other people. They might not even have been invented yet. They might go against what some people say is the right way, but if it works for you, I say do it. And that is what kind of helps you with your personal style in a way, is to paint the way that makes you feel the most comfortable and allows you to be at your full kind of creative and skill potential. But yeah, okay, gonna look at a few more questions. Let's see. Oh, I missed a few. Okay, so next question would be, June Love asks, what's your favorite all-time painting that you've done? Saruta says, what's a fear you have when doing commissions? And Sierra asks, hi, Happy, how do you know when you're done with your first layer or layer in general? I don't want to add too much too soon. Okay, so I'll just start with these three. Hopefully I remember. The first question was about my favorite painting that I've ever done. Oh, geez. You know, I always ask myself that. It's always a fun question to ask myself. And oftentimes I ask other artists if we're chatting, I'm like, what's your favorite painting? And it's so funny. It's really, really hard to say. There's no clear answer. For me, my favorite painting changes all the time. So if I like, my favorite painting often gets, what's it called, like usurped or basically outranked by another piece, like usually a newer piece. I'm really weird in the sense that I used to be attached to older pieces, but recently I've become more attached to newer pieces. I feel like it's almost like a newborn baby. Like I have to take extra care of it and give it extra like TLC and a lot of attention because it's so new. And new pieces for me symbolize kind of like, this is gonna sound cheesy, but symbolizes hope and a potential for growth. So when I do new pieces, like something like this, especially if it's very different from my usual stuff, that piece tends to be my favorite because it kind of gives me the space and the opportunity to branch out into something different and possibly, you know, create like a chain reaction of future pieces that have yet to be born. So abiding by that logic, I guess my most recent favorite piece. Man, it's so hard to say. It's a piece that hasn't been done yet, but it's actually going to be on the roster for October. So hopefully you guys will see it. It's the mermaid hybrid painting, and also this one that I'm working on right now. So those two are tied for my favorite piece. I mean, let me just grab the mermaid one real quick to show you guys, so you know what I'm talking about. So the mermaid piece, I'm really excited for this one. I think you guys might have seen me post updates on this on Instagram and on Patreon, but basically it's the first time I'm doing like a hybrid female painting that really deforms the anatomy of the human. So before, when I did hybrids or like kind of girl/animal spirits, it was just very cute. It was like a girl with like cute cat ears or something like that. But this one, I actually like tried to add, you know, fish looking body parts to her, and I'm gonna make her eyes very fish-like. And yeah, I'm just really, and I'm planning to have a very unnatural skin tone, maybe like an iridescent teal muted skin tone, and I'm just really excited to see how this will turn out. So yeah, my favorite paintings don't necessarily even have to be finished. But yeah, I am recording a time lapse for this, so you guys will probably see this in October. It'll be one of the choices for your October rewards. If I finish it in October, I really hope I do. So yeah, really excited for this one. And this is also going to the home of another artist. You guys might know her. Her name is Lindsay Rapp, and she was very sweet, and she wanted the painted version of or she wanted like a painted mermaid. So she was sweet enough to commission me, and I'm really, really excited for this, and I really want to do a good job for her because I'm a huge fan of her artwork as well. She's just such a lovely and kind person. Not to mention extremely beautiful. And yeah, so basically my favorite pieces are the ones that are a little bit different from my norm. They make me very excited. And the next question was a fear about commissions. So my biggest fear when doing commissions is that I will, and I think this fear is something I really want to share with you guys, and it's something I didn't really have time to talk about in my commissions YouTube video, but communicating with your client is really important. And it's probably like the worst thing that could happen is to miscommunicate with your client and then work super long and hard on a piece that they end up not liking, and then you have to either redo it or refund them, and it's either time lost or money lost or effort lost, and it can be a really huge injury to your morale as well. So my biggest fear, and this actually happened to me before, I'll just share the story with you guys, since it's actually a kind of funny story to tell. But, I just also want to preface this by saying I don't have any ill will towards this client. And, I have a lot of respect for them. And I do think at the end of the day, they treated me very kindly and respectfully. I just think it was simply a matter of miscommunication. I'm not blaming them, nor am I blaming myself. But it's just an example of miscommunication and how, I guess maybe if you guys can learn from this, how you guys can avoid it. But I had a client who wanted me to paint a portrait for his wife, and he was going to give it as a surprise gift for her. And I was like, yeah, that's so great. I'd love to take on this challenge for you. And he asked me to make her look like one of like a previous painting I had done before. And this previous painting was just one of my usual kind of like alien, like sexy alien girls in a way. And the girl in the painting that he wanted me to emulate was very young and, didn't look super human, and, had like long flowing hair and just, my usual type of girl. But then he showed me reference photos for his wife. And, while I thought she was very beautiful, she looked very different from the girl that he wanted me to emulate in my painting. Like, first of all, his wife is a natural beauty, doesn't wear a lot of makeup, has shorter hair, is a slightly curvier woman, which nothing is wrong with that. And I was totally prepared to paint her, exactly how she looks, and obviously make her very beautiful and look like a goddess. But, I wanted it to look like her. But this client, I guess he wanted me to we just had a miscommunication where I thought he wanted me to change like her makeup and hair to look like the painting that he was talking about. And so when I gave him like a first draft, also, sorry, I left out this part. He also wanted me to use a reference photo of his wife that was like 30 years old. So his wife was, in her 50s, and he sent me a photo of her when she was like in her 20s or 30s. It was a very, very old, very grainy photo. I couldn't even make out most of the features. Like, it was a very low quality photograph. And this was kind of earlier in my career where I didn't really know about, kind of commission etiquette. And I was kind of too afraid to speak up and request things because I was afraid that I would scare him away or make him mad. I didn't want to lose his business or make him angry at me. So I didn't speak up when I really should have. But instead of asking for a better quality photo, I just kind of went with the blurry one he gave me. And of course, it ended up looking nothing like her, because you had me with my really crappy reference photo just kind of guessing some of the details. Also, it was a photo from 30 years ago, so it looks nothing like her today. And I had this assumption that he wanted me to make her into this young, like, vixen alien creature. So, I painted her with like way more makeup. Like, she never wears makeup in real life. She's a natural beauty, but I gave her all this smoky eye makeup and stuff and made her look just nothing like her essence. She's like a beautiful, wise woman, and I made her look like this alien, like, nymph thing. And anyways, it was he wasn't satisfied with it, so I repainted it. But this time I started over. I was already like 8 or 9 hours in, and I had to start over, which was really painful. But I really wanted him to be satisfied. So when I started over, I went the complete opposite route, and I basically like made her look way too, oh, sorry. When I started over, I asked for more recent reference photos. So this time I was so afraid of it not looking like her and was so concerned with making it look like her that I kind of lost out on some of the like beautifying process. Like instead of making her look like kind of like a flawless oil painting, I just made her look way too human. Like I painted every mole, every wrinkle. You know, I didn't do any like slimming work, which like, you know, I think I should have done. Like obviously I don't want to slim her down to the point where it's like insulting. I think like she should feel beautiful in her body, and she does look beautiful. But I think the customer wanted me to make her like a little slimmer, or like maybe not add every single fat dimple. And I just copied so faithfully from the reference photo that I didn't like beautify her. You know, like I painted every blemish and flaw when I could have totally done some extra work to make it not so obvious, I guess. And so he was like, whoa, this looks really like, this doesn't look like an oil painting. It looks like, you know, you just kind of like blew up her photograph and like, you know, sharpened all of her pores. Like, you know, can you make her maybe a little bit like her skin a little bit more smoother? Like just do some airbrushing, you know, with your oil paint. So after this long exchange back and forth, this commission took me like 3 times as long as it should have. I painted over things like 3 times. I was so stressed out and like sick by the end of it. And also this, you know, since it took me so much longer than I thought it would, I ended up having to like I was due to go travel like I think a week later or something, but I thought I would be done with the painting way beforehand. But I basically told him like, hey, you know what? I have to go travel for like 3 weeks to go see my family. And his wife's birthday was looming. And I was like, you know, this is like the last day I could work on it. So luckily we arrived at a happy medium. He wasn't like super satisfied with it, but it was way better than the first 2 iterations. But yeah, it was definitely a long, tedious journey. And I learned so much through the interaction. Like, be upfront. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, my cat is. Let me just open my door real quick. The cat that I'm painting is scratching at the door. Come in. Come in, honey. He's so fussy. Come in. Okay, sorry guys. I don't know if you could hear him, but he was meowing so loud I was afraid it would interact with our audio. Anyways, so yeah, always be upfront about your client's expectations, and it's better. And like, I think your client would appreciate it, and you yourself as an artist will have an easier time if you're both just honest about what they want and what you are able to deliver. And if you need something, if you need better photos, if you want them to even retake a photo, give you better lighting, if you know, if they want you to create an effect or paint something that is out of your abilities or out of your comfort zone, tell them, be like, hey, you know what? You know, like, for example, one thing I always say to people, I'm like, I'm not super good at making someone look exactly like them because, you know, my forte or my main thing I do with paintings is not to copy reference photos exactly. So, you know, it might not look like them to a T. Like I will use a grid. I will use ways to help get the proportions and their features right, but it will still be in my style. My style tends to exaggerate people's features, make them look more doll-like. So I hope that's okay. And you know, if people, more often than not, people are like, oh yeah, I actually prefer you to do that. I want you to interpret this photo in your style. And it's just like a sigh of relief when I hear that, and like make sure we're on the same page. And it just clears my mind and helps me get into like a way more calm and creative mindset going into the commission. So, oh, that was a long story. I hope you guys, sorry if I bored you. I tend to babble. Sometimes you get in the zone painting so much, you like are not really aware of time and what's going on around you. So sorry if I'm rambling. Okay, gonna look up the next question. Oh, thank you guys. You guys are so chatty. I love it. Please don't ever feel shy. Like, feel free to ask me anything. I love answering your questions. And if I don't get around to it, just remind me, or if I forget it, just chat me again. I will not be offended. Okay, so Sarita says, have you ever considered doing live streams that are more than an hour long? An hour long is not enough. Yeah, today's live stream, it'll probably go over by like 10 minutes just because I'm having a great time today. I don't have anything to do that's an emergency. So usually I try to make my live streams go a little bit longer than an hour. But yeah, in terms of like committing to a super long live stream, like a 2 or 3 hour one, I honestly don't, I've never tried, so I don't know. So maybe it'll actually be okay. Let me think about that and how I can plan it. Usually I'm quite busy and I try to separate tasks in a day. So like even when I paint, I don't paint for like 8 hours a day. So for me to commit to doing a super long live stream, I'd have to find like a pocket of time where I can like really set up for it and have a project I can work on for that long. But yeah, that sounds honestly like really fun, like a hackathon, but a painting-a-thon. But yeah, let's see. Okay, another question. Oh my gosh, I missed so much. Sorry guys, I'm like not scrolling up far enough. Oh, Sierra says, how do you know when you're done with your first layer or layer in general? Okay, I think that's, how do I know I'm done with a layer in oil painting? So it really varies from artist to artist. My personal preference for gauging whether or not I'm done with the layer is there anything I can continue working on today that will add to the painting and also will not kind of pollute or mix colors because it's not dry enough, right? Okay, let me rephrase this. Sorry, guys. Blah, blah, blah. First criteria for making sure I'm done with the layer is like, if I'm physically exhausted and can't paint anymore, then I'm done, like regardless of any other factors. So that's kind of like the bottleneck for everything, or sorry, the kingpin for everything. If I'm tired and exhausted, I'm done, even if I could potentially work on it more. The second thing that that I judge for how a layer is done is there any room left for me to paint that's currently dry so that my paint or my color doesn't you know, mix with the previous layer and create like a muddied mixture of colors that I don't want. Now, sometimes, so this criteria also varies because sometimes you want the underpainting to be a little bit wet because you want to blend and you want to mix. A great example is painting clouds. Like I would love to work on clouds while the base layer is still a little bit mixable and wet so that I can create like a fluffy texture. I don't have to repaint everything. But something else, like for example, the fur on this cat that I'm doing, I actually really want the first layer to be dry so that I could build up new layers and add new textures, have my brush strokes show up and create this like fuzzy look without, you know, worrying about the colors underneath mixing and muddying it up. I don't know if muddying is a word, but. And then lastly, if I'm not out of space and sorry, if I'm not out of dry space and I'm not super tired, another thing I think about is like, does this layer actually add any progress to the piece? And this is something you guys don't have to really think about, or it's something that I don't try to put too much pressure on myself, because sometimes you have a good painting session, sometimes you have a bad painting session. If a painting session goes bad and you spend most of the layer, you know, kind of fixing mistakes or tweaking things, there might not be a super palpable, noticeable change or progress. And that's totally okay. Not every layer has to be some significant improvement, and you shouldn't feel bad about yourself if you have, you know, a painting session where it looks like nothing has changed. I have those all the time. I'll be like, wow, I painted for 2.5 hours and it looks completely the same as when I started. Like I'll take a before and after photo. But it's not the same, and you have to really trust yourself there. Like it might look the same, but in reality, what you did, you built up more value. You smoothed out certain parts of the skin, or perhaps you laid the foundation for the next layer, and it's going to look great. Like you don't know how much your work was worth until kind of the very end when the painting's complete, when it's all paid off. So don't kick yourself too hard if you know, are supposedly done with a layer or a painting session and it doesn't look like too dramatic of a change. I think that's totally fine. But yeah, that's kind of my criteria for layers. Let's see. May asks, I'm seriously thinking of having a YouTube channel, but I'm doubting it too much. So what do I have to keep in mind before opening a YouTube channel? Do you have any tips? Oh, wow. Yeah, so many. I'm going to try to not overwhelm you guys by talking too much, but YouTube channels, first and foremost, you have to think about how much work they entail and require. Editing videos takes a while, and filming videos takes a while, and coming up with ideas and planning for videos takes a while. And the process of just uploading, like even when you're done planning, filming, editing, and you have the video file, the process of uploading that file onto YouTube and preparing it for like the internet also takes a while. So it's just an endless stream of work, and you really, really do have to be prepared for how much work. So make sure you have enough time to devote to it. And also one thing about YouTube is if you really are serious about growing your channel, growing your audience, it's like a huge commitment. Like you can't just upload a video once every month or once every 2 months or once in a blue moon and expect it to go anywhere. Like even if you have a video that does really well, like let's say you have one video that went viral and got a lot of views, you now have like a certain momentum, and you have to keep building off of that momentum and keep working at it. Otherwise, if you fall off the radar and you don't post anything and your feed is dead and you don't have much activity, much freshness, much interaction, then the future videos you post will not have as great of a reach or an effect. So yeah, you really do have to be consistent and really dedicated to constantly producing content. For me, like this past 3 weeks, I was gone for most of September. So in August, I worked overtime and made extra videos so that I could still produce one video a week. So, I basically made them ahead of time and scheduled them to be released while I was gone and traveling. And so, I really suffered in August because of that. But like, that's kind of the name of the game. Like, that's how YouTube works. So yeah, I don't know if, sorry, I didn't mean to scare you guys, but when all those things, if you're okay with that or excited about that, which, I was, it's okay. It's honestly not that bad, guys. Like it's not like it's miserable. Like making videos is quite fun. So it is just simply a time commitment. But the last thing you have to consider, which I didn't know, is like YouTube can be quite volatile sometimes. I always say this, I feel very lucky to be part of the art community because I feel like we're one of the friendliest, if not the friendliest communities, and people here are very supportive. And I think it's because most people who watch art videos have some sort of intention to learn or some intention to be inspired or be motivated or be educated. So they watch it with like a positive intention. And I feel like because of that, we get way less kind of trolls and haters, but doesn't mean that we don't get any. Like they will show up in whatever industry. So when I first started my YouTube channel, I was, I was not getting very many views. So the very few views and commenters I got were all really positive. And I was like, this is great. This is going to be like peaches and roses. And then when I first started getting my my first few hate comments or mean comments or even criticisms, they don't even have to be like super mean or like foul-mouthed. As long as someone's criticizing you and talking down to you in a way that hurts your feelings or makes you annoyed, like it's really, really frustrating because, in the creator's mind, like you put up all this effort to make a video, and usually the videos I make, like I try to make them with the viewer in mind. Like I don't make videos just because like I think they'd be good. Like I make videos that I think people would want to watch and people would benefit from watching, especially since I think my channel has a very kind of teaching and educational vibe to it. So when I do that and I'm like, I feel like I'm trying to give back a lot and create things and share things and really kind of making myself vulnerable, and then someone criticizes it or makes a mean or annoying comment, it really makes me feel like all that work was, like wasted on this person. And it used to make me really upset. Like I used to call my mom and all this stuff. And then now after, how long have I had my channel? Maybe 2 years, maybe not quite 2 years yet. But yeah, after time goes on, you just learn to freaking ignore it. It's just like, oh, I see a troll or I see someone being like, oh, I don't like this video, or like, oh, I didn't learn anything. This video is useless. Like, I just learned to delete that comment and move on and not even remember it. And instead, I pay attention to like the really positive comments from people being like, oh, this really helped me, or like, oh, thank you so much for making this video. I've been waiting for a while, and like da da da. Like, I focus on the positive messages. So before you go into YouTube, just be prepared. Like, be prepared for the time dedication and the consistency which you have to work on it, and also be prepared for kind of having to manage a forum in which people have the freedom to voice their opinions about you and your work, whether it's positive or negative. So yeah, that's kind of my long spiel. Okay. Next question. Joanna says, do you ever stitch your new ideas for paintings together on Photoshop first? And do you ever go through a dry spell in creating new ideas? If so, where do you go for inspiration? Okay, so I don't know what you mean by stitch together, but I think I know what you mean, and no, I don't do it that way. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think my guess as to what you mean by stitch together is like almost create like a Photoshop blend of your final piece, and then use that image as like one reference image for your entire painting, right? So for example, for this piece, stitching my reference together would be, I take a photo of a girl in this pose, and I take a photo of a cat in this pose, and I blend them together in Photoshop. And then I take a background photo and I add it as the background. And I basically just have this kind of digital version of a reference photo that I created by photo manipulating several images, and I use that as the reference. So that's not what I do. I used to do that. I used to be like, okay, if I want to paint even something as simple as like a girl with like 2 flowers next to her neck, I would like find the perfect flower reference photo, and then I like, you know, position it next to her neck, and I use layer mask and like erase the background and make sure everything was the right composition and da da da. But now my approach is way more, I think it works better for me. I'm not saying it'll work better for everyone, but my approach now is to simply take reference photos that I think would help be a good guideline and just kind of keep them all open in their own separate windows. I don't do any photo manipulation. I don't erase the backgrounds or blend images together. So for this one, I actually have like 3 different reference photos for the body and 3 different reference photos for the cat. And then I don't follow any one in particular. What I follow most closely is my concept sketch, which I did without any reference. And I find photos that I think will help supplement my concept sketch, and then I basically use them as guidance. So for example, I'm painting the knee. I'm like, oh, I don't know how the knee bone looks in this angle. So I look at my reference photo. I'm like, oh, this is how the knee looks. Or the hair. I actually don't have any reference photo for the hair yet, but later when it comes time to add details on the hair, I can be like, okay, let me just I'll just Google an image of like girl with long ponytail and see how this part of the hair looks. So yeah, it's not that stitching process. Mine is a bit more, I guess. It's like faster for me to set up and start a piece, but it does take a little bit more work for my brain to seek out the right reference photos and then map them to the actual painting. It takes a little bit of practice, but over time, it's allowed me to not have to spend too much time in prep work and just dive straight into painting, which is the thing I'm always most excited about. And in terms of the questions about, do I go through a dry spell for creating new ideas? Definitely I do, but you know what's great? Sorry, I don't mean to be so cheesy all the time and be like, I just love Patreon. Let me spend the whole time gushing. But truly, Patreon has helped me have less dry spells because I have a rewards tier that is just, I think it's called the illustration rewards tier. And I basically send out, I think right now I have 5 people pledging it. So 5 new drawings every month. And for me, I take that time. So that's usually towards like the middle of each month is when I do the drawings. I take that time to force myself to experiment with new ideas, because the 5 people that pledge to me have been pledging for a long time. So I want to make sure that they are getting new drawings. You know, like I don't want to recycle the same ideas for them, because, you know, they've received like already 5 drawings from me. So it forces me to come up with new things, and like through that experience, I'm able to use it as like a garden for new ideas for future pieces. And this is a great example of it. This was one of the drawings I did for that reward tier for one of my patrons. And I was like, hey, this will make a really good painting. And after this, I might do a series of, giant animals with tiny girls, or just after this, it might start, I don't know, like a new streak of confidence, and I'll start tackling more, background heavy paintings. Like you never know, right? So for me, like I try to take every little opportunity or every little experiment and just force myself to go with it and take it one step further. And that kind of helps me find new inspiration and not run out of ideas. But yeah, it's weird. Like ever since I started becoming a full-time artist, I'm having less and less art block. And it basically went the opposite direction. I thought I would have more and more art block because I'd be forced to do art so much. And I thought that the stress and pressure from having to make money off of art would make me less inspired. But I think my personality type just works really well with deadlines and kind of urgencies. And yeah, having more deadlines actually makes my brain kind of kick into high gear and work faster. And it ends up leading to less art block, basically. So that's really nice. Okay, next question. Casey says, what exactly is a medium? I've been trying to teach myself oils for about a year and know nothing about them. So a medium is basically, it's something that combines with your oil paint to make the paint behave slightly differently. And mediums are not required, but they come in many forms. There's slow drying mediums and fast drying mediums, and sometimes mediums that don't really change the drying time. And they're usually transparent and without color. Some mediums have a slight yellow tint to them. But the purpose of mediums is to kind of make the paint a little bit softer, more spreadable, and more translucent. So if you want to glaze and build layers, let's say like if you want to make something purple, instead of just using purple paint, you can do like a layer of blue and then mix a layer of pink with medium to make it semi-transparent, and then layer it over the blue, and it'll give you a different, very like deep, luminous purple, instead of just going to straight up using purple oil paint. So, and also mediums are great for if you want, let's say I'm working on the skin and I want the skin to be smooth and blendable, but I have to leave right now and I can't paint again until tomorrow. I can apply a slow drying medium with my oil paint to make sure that it'll stay wet longer and that I can work on it later when I have time. And then, vice versa, if you, let's say, have a deadline and you have to have a painting shipped out for a show or for a client, and, it's almost time to ship it, but you're not done yet, and you want to make sure the painting is dry enough to ship or dry enough to varnish, then you can use a fast drying medium to make sure it dries faster. So mediums are not required, and I feel like if you're just starting out, don't worry about it yet. It's something that you pick up later on. Of course, by all means, if you're just starting out and you're genuinely curious about mediums and want to learn, like feel free to experiment, but don't kick yourself too hard if you don't get mediums right away, or if you don't really know how to use them yet. They do take a little bit of practice. Okay, next question is from, let's see, June. She says, I just separated my regular Instagram photography from my artwork. I decided to make an entirely new Instagram for my artwork, but it's so discouraging when you don't have the same following. How do I get out of that mindset when dealing with social media in relation to my artwork, including YouTube? Oh man, I could talk about this for days. Okay, let's see. It's 2:59. Okay, I'm gonna answer this question, and then I think this might be okay. I'll answer one more question after this. But social media is very unpredictable. It's not a guarantee. It's not like a machine that you put a certain combination of factors into and it'll give you the same results. Different people will have different results, even if they have the same type of posts, the same starting point. It truly is unpredictable. And unless you buy followers, which, it's useless because Instagram will remove them. And in my opinion, it's a waste of money. But unless you buy followers, there's no way to guarantee someone's going to follow you or that you'll grow followers. Even my account, like I remember when I was at, I don't know, like 20,000 or 30,000, some days I grew so much faster than I do now. And now I have, I think like, I don't know, like 170 something thousand. So just because you're a larger account also doesn't mean you have more power or more strength to grow. And I don't know exactly how the Instagram or even YouTube algorithm is built. All I know is that it's a combination of factors of like how often you post, how much your posts get engagement being like likes and comments, and what percentage of people follow you versus what percentage engage with you. So it's something that you can't predict. So my advice, since you can't change it, you can't predict it, and you can't control it, then don't worry too much about it. I think like, if I give advice, I'm like, oh, if you do this and that, you'll get more followers, and it doesn't happen, then I'm just like disappointing people. So I don't want to like overpromise anything. But for me, it was just a slow, steady climb. Like when I first started my Instagram account, I was like under 1,000 for several months or maybe even a year. I honestly didn't even keep track. And I had very, very low expectations for myself because, I was looking at other art accounts that had like hundreds of thousands, and I'm just like, okay, I will never get there. Like I'll be an 80-year-old woman and I'll never get there because I'm getting like one new follower a week. So at this rate, like, and I just drove myself insane with all these negative thoughts. And it truly didn't help my art at all. And it didn't help my, I don't know, mental state at all. So eventually I abandoned it and just started creating art and appreciating the followers that I did have. Because while I didn't have, 100,000, I had several hundred, and eventually I had a few thousand. And that was enough of a community of people who like, supported me, who I supported, who I was able to interact with, who I could learn from. And that was enough to keep me going. And eventually, even when I grew and I had certain spurts of growth and got many new followers, it's not like it was an immediate impact on how many prints I sold or how well I did. Those things, everything travels at their own pace. Everything happens in their own time. Like I said, with galleries, for example, I've seen galleries give solo shows to artists with not even 10,000 followers. And likewise, I've seen artists with, 1 million followers who've never been a part of gallery shows. So it's like, depending on, oh, my camera stopped recording for some reason. But yeah, depending on your style, how you fit in with a certain gallery's own aesthetics, or even what you use to measure success, it really varies. And social media doesn't always determine how well you succeed, right? So for me, it's like, I didn't really care about how many followers I had. I just wanted to be able to be in galleries and sell prints and like, have a loyal collector base who liked my work. I didn't really think about social media as even being a possibility until it kind of just happened organically. Like, so, I mean, and I'm super thankful that it did. I'm really, really glad that, I am a part of the art social media community now. But back then it's like, it was never my goal. And I think if I made it my goal, I would have had so much pressure on myself to be like, oh my God, how many new followers do I have today? Or like, oh, I just want to be like YouTube famous or Instagram famous. Why isn't that happening yet? Like that mindset is so unhealthy. And even to this day, like, I'm not saying I've reached like the pinnacle of Instagram or YouTube fame. I still think I'm very much just a normal, average person. But like, even now that I do have a lot wider reach than I used to, it's not like the wide reach itself is what makes me happy. Like, I don't look at the number of like, oh, whatever, like 170,000 followers. Like, yeah, that number makes me feel so great and like makes me feel like I've really done a great job or I really made it. Like, that's not what I think. It's still the individual comments or the individual moments that make me feel some sort of success, right? Like when I see someone write me a message or a comment about how I really helped them through depression, or when a parent tells me that like I encourage their kid to start drawing and painting, after they haven't done it for a while, or, I oftentimes get messages from older people, like people in their 30s and 40s who say like, hey, you really gave me hope to like pick up my paintbrush again, or maybe try to leave my job and do something I love. Like that stuff is what makes me feel like I've succeeded. And so, yeah, sorry, I don't know where I'm going with this, but basically don't let that mindset of trying to compete for more followers and more attention kind of pollute what is really important, which is like you making art first and foremost to make yourself happy, and also the kind of positivity you could impact on someone else, even if it's just one person. Like don't ignore that, and don't take that for granted just because you don't have like millions of followers yet. You know, it takes time, and the journey along the way can already be fulfilling if you're kind of like open to it, you know? Oh, I sound like a self-help book. Sorry, guys. Okay, one more question, and then I'm gonna turn the camera away from the painting. So the next question is from, let's see. Oh, you guys are sharing your art accounts. It's so cute. Okay, I'm gonna try to do one. Okay, I'll try to do one from lower. Scroll down, answer a more recent comment because I've been scrolling up too much. Okay. Oh, this is a really good question. Crystal says, do you think following popular trends like Inktober are worth it? Honestly, I don't know, because I don't think I've ever tried something like that, or maybe I did and I didn't realize it, but I don't think they're hurtful. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing an art trend and kind of being engaged with a community of people who are doing the same thing. I think that feeling of camaraderie and you know, it's really fun. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Now, are they worth it in terms of like, do you think they're helpful for your social media growth or helpful for your skills as an artist to grow? I think it really depends on the person and how much you're committed to it, right? So Inktober, for example, you do one piece of art a day. You could either brush it off and just do something really quick just to kind of fulfill that criteria, or you could like really have a month where you prioritize Inktober, prioritize doing art, you know, blow off parties and friends and socializing in exchange for really knocking Inktober out of the park. And so like those two different mindsets will yield two different results. So whether or not it's worth it, I think it really depends on the person. And I don't know if like following trends like Inktober will get you more views or likes. I've never tried that, but I feel like it should, because I feel like if I was doing Inktober and doing a trend, I would be more engaged and more curious about what other people who are participating were creating as well. So it might encourage me to be more active in like following others and looking at other artwork instead of just posting my own. But again, that's kind of a guess, so I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, okay guys, I think I am done with the painting portion for the day. I'm gonna rearrange my camera so I can say goodbye to you guys on screen. So let me take off my glove and awkwardly move everything back. My cat is here. I want to show him to you guys because I'm painting him. Sorry, I'm like obsessed with my cat. Hi, hi. Don't worry, I'll give you attention very soon. Come on. Okay, there we go. Hi, hi, hi. Oh, my cat is so cute. Like every day around this time, he hangs out. Like early afternoon time, he starts bugging me and hanging out with me because I feed him around like about an hour from now is his usual feeding time. So he'll start like preparing and begging for food way earlier, just in case I make a mistake and feed him twice, right, Cleveland? Okay. Woo! All right, guys. I'm back at my desk. Hopefully you guys can see me. Awesome. Okay. Oh, hi, come here. Come here. Sorry, guys. So this is my cat. Look how big he is. Doesn't he look just like the cat that I'm painting? It's because I'm using his photo as a reference photo. Hi. Show everyone your chubby face. Guys, I'm a crazy cat lady. I would literally like sit here and pet him and talk about him for an hour if you guys didn't stop me. Okay, so let's see. Finishing up a few, maybe I'll answer one more question. Let's see. Oh, people are saying that actually does help. Like those 1 month challenges actually do help. That's good. I'm really glad to hear that. Okay. One more question. One more question. Let's see. Oh, Crystal says, how do I paint fields in the background? Okay, I'll answer it really quickly. Take a brush and take a brush, obviously. So fields, you want to start off with color blocking, like something blurry and rough. So kind of what I said before with a large rough brush and just kind of block in the colors. Start with the darker colors first, and then when it's time to do midtones and highlights, use smaller brushes and do the tiny details in a slightly lighter color to make it pop out. That is my recommendation for fields. And don't feel the need to paint every single blade of grass or every single stalk of wheat or whatever field you're doing. Since it's a background, I like to keep my backgrounds kind of looser and less detailed so that my subject has more focus. So my subject has most of the detail. So yeah, I hope. Oh, and also keep the colors muted a little bit. Mix colors with their complementary color so that your background is not so bright and colorful that it draws attention away from your focal point, which I'm guessing is the human subject. But yeah, okay. I'm officially done with this live stream. We went about 11 minutes overboard, so hopefully you guys like the extra. And thank you all so much for bearing with me and listening to me ramble. I hope you were able to pick out a few morsels of helpful information. And hope you guys have an awesome October. I'll see you guys probably before Halloween next month. So I'm really excited. October is going to be really fun. It's one of my favorite seasons or favorite months because it's in fall. And let's see, making sure I'm not missing anything. But yeah, thank you guys so much for those of you staying up late. Please get to sleep. For those of you who woke up early, I hope you're not too tired. And I hope to see you guys in next month's live stream. Bye, guys. Love you. Say bye, bye.